Alaska during the winter. I get a lot of strange looks when we do travel shows and people say, why the hell would you ever want to go to Alaska in the winter? Well, I can tell you, once you see it, it's absolutely gorgeous. The mountains look bigger. All the activities that you do, they're completely different than what's available during the summer. Basically two different destinations.
Absolutely. Yeah, no bugs in the wintertime, so that's one bonus.
That's right.
I can tell you, I just flew down yesterday, and with the daylight we're gaining now and will continue to gain through April into May, the light is fantastic. Orange lights, alpenglow in the evenings. If you can see Denali with that pink light, or any of the mountain ranges, the Chugach, the Alaskas, the Talkeetnas, the scenery changes every 3 minutes with the daylight. So we get anything from that dim morning light to vibrant pinks. And it's just fantastic. Warm, weather in the 20s and 30s. It's not terribly uncomfortable. It's very, very dry up there. It's not very humid. So 20 degrees to us is t-shirts. And not for you guys, but it's not as cold as you think. So no need to bundle up too vigorously, but definitely with the light and the change of scenery, it's really every day is a little different, but you can sit there with a cup of coffee and take 30 different pictures of the mountain and get 30 different experiences.
Right. Yeah. And it's like the summer, things change very quick, but your climate is going to vary greatly because all of our tours that we operate in the winter, they will visit as far north as Fairbanks, as far south as Anchorage or Girdwood. Mm-hmm. And you have two very, very different climates going on there. Absolutely. Anchorage being that's where Matt lives, being next to the ocean, does have some humidity. It's going to be, I think sometimes it's a little disappointing for folks because there's not always snow on the ground in Anchorage. Yeah. We've had winter tours that we've run that were 30s and 40s, and people were like, well, why did I come up here for this? Well, trust me, that can change by 60 to 80 degrees going north to Fairbanks. And that's, like Matt said, Fairbanks is very dry. It's actually a desert region because they get so little vegetation. And for any of you that have lived up north, just to give you an example, the snow is so dry you can't even make a snowball with it, and it piles up very quickly. So, and for any of you that are from the Midwest specifically, we always get these snowstorms, and then the wind comes behind it. You'll be absolutely mind blown when you see the way that the snow piles up on things in Fairbanks because there's almost zero wind. Right. And so a gazebo, for example, it will look like a cupcake because it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. We never get that here because right after that front moves through, we get those strong winds. Yeah. And so that's another reason why I know people always say, you're crazy, it's freezing up in Alaska in the winter. Trust me when I say this, 30 below zero is not as cold as you think it is in Fairbanks because there isn't any wind. Yep. And you don't have the moisture. Yep. As they say in Arizona, it's a dry heat. Same thing up there, it's a dry cold. I know it sounds crazy, but once you experience it, you'll understand. So we have the state of Alaska, obviously Anchorage located down here, and then Fairbanks will be up here. Now, one of the main reasons that we go to Alaska during the winter is the Aurora Borealis. So I talk a lot about that, but I don't have all night. So why do we do it? Well, Fairbanks is in geographically one of the best places on the planet to see the Aurora Borealis. And this phenomenon takes place both in the north and on the South Pole. In the South Pole, they call it the Aurora Australis, I believe. Mm-hmm. So you can check again. No, check my bags.
That's good.
But again, the way that that's formed is solar winds that have particles that are colliding with other particles that are being held in place by the Earth's magnetic poles. So that's what we're seeing is basically that disturbance. And if you've ever saw in the ocean, gosh, what do they call those things? The same thing where you have these particles in the ocean and they collide, and basically at night it's a bright green
bioluminescence.
Oh,
I knew she would pop on and correct me.
Sorry.
What's it called again, Elizabeth?
It's called bioluminescence, and it's when the algae
bioluminescence.
Yes. Yeah, it's the algae
So-
that creates the color.
The thing about that, very similar in the fact that those particles are always there in the water, most times, I guess, in the water, and then on the poles, the same with the aurora. But it's this disturbance is what we're seeing and what creates that light. So this again just shows you, folks, you better bundle up. We do again tell you how to dress. I think the most important thing is to layer.
Layers and the polysynthetic materials, your Under Armour, Patagonia. Stay away from the cotton hoodie that you wear at home. That's not going to do you any good. But as dry as it is, not the end of the world. Just 2 or 3 layers, nice jacket. And
of course, we give everybody the
everybody
jacket.
gets their 3/4 length jacket, and everybody ends up walking around with them zipped down anyway. So
Yep.
even our folks that come up from the villages love the warmth of those jackets.
Yep. Out of all the years that we've done this, I have yet to hear somebody complain that they were cold all the time.
Nope.
We've been able to keep them warm and prepare you as to how to stay warm.
And always jump back on that nice warm motor coach too.
Absolutely. And that's thanks for bringing that up.
Mhm.
You know, I think that's one of the misconceptions when people are thinking about going to Alaska in the winter. I'm going to be outside for long periods of time. There's always going to be a spot where you can get warm. We do have people that are, you know, not as fast walking, or maybe they have a metal rod in their leg and that cools them down really quick. You're always going to have a place where you can get warm. Okay, moving on. So some of the activities, I'm going to start from the south and move north. And we have, of course, out of Anchorage, that's where you'll be starting your tour or ending your tour. We are going to visit the muskox farm, which is really cool. So there you can actually see one of our jackets that our folks are wearing right there. Now, if you saw our blue jackets, we do obviously do the blue jackets during the summer months, which is just a shell. On the winter ones, it's going to be a black jacket. We've changed styles a few times, but basically it has an inner zip out liner, which is that warm down, and then the outer liner is more like a ski jacket style. This was one of those winters where we just didn't have a lot of snow. Now, that's, again, not always the case. But what we can also do is we can ship your jacket to Alaska so you don't have to bring it with you if you don't want. The other question we get a lot about is the boots.
Mhm.
There is a place where you can rent warm gear for you folks that live down south and will never use this stuff again. In my opinion, I would buy something that you know is going to fit and you're comfortable in, because it's about the same price.
Exactly.
And if you think you're not going to use it, we will take it down and we can donate it to the people that need it. There's homeless camps and places that people can use that. And our clients have done that in the past.
Yep.
So that's what I would do. If you're going to spend $120 renting gear, you might as well have your own. And like I said, it's never going to go to waste. Somebody can use it even if you don't take it home. Is there anything you want to add with the clothing end of it?
No, just that you'll be warm, and we've done this tour enough to know that as you come with us, we're going to keep you comfortable, and I wouldn't even worry about being cold. Of course, we always have a box of hand warmers on there, hats and gloves, but we don't subject you to endless amounts of time outside where you're going to be in danger. So I wouldn't really be concerned too much with the cold weather.
Yeah, and snow pants is a good idea. We do have a couple things, whether it's snowmobiling, or as they call it in Alaska, snow machining, that, or riding the dog sleds, or even when you're walking back where we do, some of the Iditarod activities, snow pants are a good idea as well. So another thing that we do in Anchorage, this is part of our Iditarod tour, is we go to the Mushers Banquet. This is where kind of the who's who of Anchorage is always there.
Yep.
And this is where all of the mushers who are in the Iditarod race will draw their bib position, their starting position. So if you are a fan of the race, they have a silent auction there. They have obviously the place where you can get autographs, all kinds of things like that. And now I'm talking about things as if, or I should say, how they have run in the past.
Right.
There are going to be some changes moving forward. So if you're asking about that, obviously we are not we are not going to be doing this, but we are not running an Iditarod tour in 2021, just our winter wonders. So again, you see all those people sitting there.
What's exciting about this Mushers Banquet, it's the Thursday before the race starts, and a lot of people full of excitement and energy for the start of the race. This is the only time all the mushers are in the same room. And after that race starts on Saturday for our ceremonial start in Anchorage, Sunday for the official start in Willow, it's the only time they're all together, because what happens is those lead competitors finish in 8.5 days, and some other folks don't finish, 18, 19 days. So getting to see familiar faces, it's like going to a NASCAR race, if you will. You've got everybody in the same room under the same roof at the same time. So very, very exciting. Alaska is very casual and laid back, so it's not hard to get an autograph. There's no musher is going to shun you from an autograph. If you want to get Ali Zirkle or Martin Boozer or Jeff King or Dallas CV, those guys all love to interact with the supporters and the fans of the race. But really exciting time to go to that Mushers Banquet.
Yep. Oh, I've got one slide out of place here, but just another view of our muskox and again, the beautiful mountains with the snow on them. Now we're going to go to the official start, or I'm sorry, the ceremonial start in Anchorage. You can see Anchorage in the background there. And that's where they will release the mushers, and they do that 2 minutes apart. So you'll get to see all your mushers go by. This is the part actually that most people only see, and
Right.
we're going to see several parts of it.
Right.
But this is one out of basically 3 times, or 4 if you can count the Mushers Banquet, where we're going to have a chance to see the mushers. So this is a huge event. This is like the spring fling. Great things going on. The third time that we will see these mushers is actually the following day. We're going to go up to Willow, or we'll be overnighting in Talkeetna, but then traveling back down to Willow, and that's where we will get to see them do the official start.
Yeah.
And that's when it's all business. Don't try to get an autograph there. It's not going to happen.
Thursday's autographs. That's after that. It's they get their game faces on for sure.
Right. And if you've ever wondered or thought maybe these dogs were being put up to this and they didn't want to run all the way to Nome, wait till you see these dogs. I mean, they live to run. It is crazy.
They love it. Yeah, there's probably I think there's 57 teams this year. We average between 60 and 70. So 70 times 16, you get 900 dogs out there, and it's a lot of fun. The other neat thing, if you're an Iditarod buff or you just enjoy Alaskan history, is to see the difference. And then what I mean by the difference is when you get a top team that's competing for the rights to win that race, those are athletic dogs. I mean, it's the difference between Mahomes and Peyton Manning today. I mean, Peyton Manning was great in his day, but Peyton Manning ain't going to keep up with Patrick Mahomes right now. But those dogs are just incredible shape. They're 25 to 30 pounds. They're amazing, full of energy. They actually start off with brakes on those dogs for about 10 miles. They're so excited they got to slow them down. But I could talk Iditarod all day. It's an exciting, exciting time. We start off in Willow, right there on Willow Lake. And if we have you can see the blue sky behind them there. Our last trip that we did, you'd watch the mushers go out. You have a 2-minute break in between, and you view to the north is of Denali. So you get to keep that camera clicking, and before you know it, you got about 900 pictures in one day.
Yeah, last year we didn't have that luxury. We just got hammered with snow.
Yeah,
we had about 2 feet of snow over the course of about 30 hours.
Yeah,
from Willow to Talkeetna. It was nuts. So, but it adds to it.
Every year is different.
And this is one of those things, in Anchorage, you see everybody kind of in the same spot, and you're trying to find a place to get on the fence. Out here at the official start, yeah, you can walk, 2 miles back on the trail if you want to, and get right up on the gate. So that's all up to you. Now, before we move too far north and talk about this, I just wanted to mention Anchorage. We do have the possibility of seeing Aurora in Anchorage, but our problem with that is all of the light pollution. And believe it or not, there's a huge difference between Anchorage and Talkeetna even though it's not that far.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much better possibilities starting in Talkeetna and moving north. But just a couple of pictures that I was able to get over the last couple of years here, actually down by Earthquake Park. This is looking into the downtown, or down at the downtown area of Anchorage. So you can see that these do move very quickly, but we're putting a lot as far as once we get to Fairbanks, that's when we really chase that aurora. Because one of the, like I said, one of the best places geographically to do that. Now, one of the other things we're going to have a chance to do, actually, when we go up to the muskox farm, is we're actually going to go to the Iditarod headquarters. So you can see that there. Again, if you're part of the Winter Wonders Tour, our Winter Wonders Tour does all activities except things that are Iditarod. Yeah. So we do go down to Girdwood, and this is where on our Winter Wonders Tour, if you want to go skiing, you can do that. We also have what are they? That hiking.
Snowshoeing.
The snowshoeing. I'm sorry, that's what it was. There is snowmobiling or snow machining available, however you want to say it.
Yep.
But we have a couple of activities available for you down there. And again, it just shows you the true beauty of this place on a clear day. This is Turnagain Arm that I'm looking down on here. And for any of you who have been to Alaska, or if you've looked at going to Alaska during the summer, this is the area where you'd have to drive down along to get to the cruise ship. So you drive down here and you'll kind of make a circle behind the mountain, head up across those mountains. So very, very beautiful though. The views in the winter, unbelievable on a clear day. So overnighting in Talkeetna.
Yep.
One of the great things about going to Talkeetna is that we are at a lodge that, I guess I don't even know how many rooms there, but it's a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Big lodge, very few people in the winter though. So it's a total different feel from what you see during the summer. And that 35-foot stone fireplace in the lobby actually serves a purpose.
Yeah.
Yes, rather than something just to look at.
Yep.
So this is out back of the lodge. Well, not only can you go and, be a child and, make your snow angels, which I know there's all you people from down in Florida. I know you're going to want to make a snow angel.
We'll help you up.
Yes, we will.
We'll help you up.
Yes. As you can see right here, we have teamwork. But if you don't notice this, look in the background. We are looking at the south side of Denali. Absolutely doesn't get any better than that.
It's phenomenal. And it's actually, when you're at the Talkeetna Lodge, you're about 64 miles away from the south side of the mountain. That's closer than you are to the mountain if you went into Denali in the summer at Wonder Lake. So it's as close, really. You can drive a little closer, but you can't match that view. So we're perched up on the hill in Talkeetna. We're enjoying that fireplace and a cocktail, and we're watching the beautiful scenery. I can tell you 2 years ago when John Jr. and I were up there with our group, and Joe was up there as well with his, we enjoyed dinner. We took a little nap, and about 9 o'clock in the evening, the aurora started to present itself behind the mountain. So it was on the other side. It was on that interior part of Alaska on the north side of the mountain. And each 20 minutes the intensity of the lights grew. And by 1 o'clock in the morning, we had red and yellow and green lights lighting up or backdrop lighting the entire range. So they were so vibrant, we could see those mountains from 60 miles away, and it was phenomenal. With that being said, I will encourage everyone after we enter Talkeetna, not so much Anchorage, but as we get Talkeetna north or Fairbanks south, and you enjoy a nice dinner, which we take care of that, take a little 1 hour nap, take a 90-minute nap, charge those batteries up, because a lot of times your best Northern Lights viewing is midnight, 2 in the morning, and you'd hate to be sitting around that breakfast table looking at everybody's pictures of fantastic Northern Lights while you were snoozing. So we will remind you, but take a little nap after dinner, just charge those batteries up, keep you going.
In all the places that we stay, we do have a wake up list. So if they do come out, we're going to wake you up, give you that call. And that's the other thing too. Some folks think that the Northern Lights are predictable like a sunset. We don't know. We have an idea of intensity because the way that what the aurora is formed, it's based on those solar winds. And there are a couple apps that help us. The Alaska Geophysical Institute has an amazing, probably the best Aurora Tracker, and will tell us what's going to happen, but it doesn't tell the whole story. Right. These auroras, they can last for 6 hours or they could last for 6 minutes. Yeah. You don't know. So that's why we want you to be awake. We want you to be able to see it, because that's why you go. And one of the questions that we did get emailed to us is, what is our real chance of seeing the aurora? I would say that the way that we do this, you can, spending, what do you think, spending 3 to 4 days in Fairbanks?
Yeah, 80% or higher. I mean, if we get a nice high pressure system, they're going to be there, but yeah, 80% or greater.
Okay. So that having said that, the reason that I asked Matt about it is my statistics is, since we've been doing this in 2014, every single one of our tours has saw the aurora. So I can't say that it's guaranteed, but what we do is we put the odds in your favor. Just like what we do in the summertime when we operate, we are spending a fairly large chunk of time in the best place at the best time of year. March and November are the 2 highest activity months for aurora. So that's why we do our winter tours in March. So can I guarantee it? No. The other thing that I do want to mention is a lot of these pictures that you see on the aurora, they have been doctored. Not only can cameras see the aurora better than your human eye, the thing that I learned last year is that human eyes don't see it the same. I can, for whatever reason, see it better than some others, and others can see it. So when you see the reds, or when I hear people say, I didn't see the reds and they're disappointed, or we didn't see, it dancing. We don't know. It is so unpredictable. Sometimes it can be very bright, but not move much. Other times it could be faint and be
but it's an experience you can't explain to anyone. And the other thing to do, which isn't hard for our groups, is you got to put that camera down and just soak in that moment. Take 90 seconds, take 2 minutes, put an arm around your wife, husband, or other, and just enjoy that moment. Put that camera down and be thankful that we get to enjoy that for a couple minutes.
Right, because I'm going to be there. I'm going to be taking pictures, and I share that with everybody on the group. We also bring in a professional photographer on all of our winter tours to do a class on it. But like Matt said, not everybody wants to go out and buy a camera that can capture it. But even most smartphones, there are apps out there that can do it if you want to. Yep. But if you just sit there and want to take it in, don't worry, because I'm going to get pictures and I'm going to share them with everybody. Yep. The one thing that I do not do with my pictures is I never adjust the coloring on them. Mm-hmm. I take them exactly how they are taken from my camera. A lot of what you're going to see in galleries, they are brightened, they are changed contrast, all of that. And it makes a gorgeous picture, don't get me wrong. But I do have pictures that I won't even show in a travel show because I don't want people to think that that's the bar. I want you to see it, and trust me, you're going to be excited to see it, even if it's just this green smudge. Yeah. But it's varying degrees, and I never ever would say to a group, well, you should have saw it yesterday. You don't want to hear that. Yeah. But it's going to be unique when you do see it. So I hate to just talk about, I could literally talk about Aurora for hours on end. But when I first captured it, it was just the coolest thing ever. And it was a terrible picture. And most people are so excited about, just finally being able to get it, because you do have to change your settings. I will tell you this, if you have any type of camera and you put it in an auto mode, that will not work. Mm-hmm. But along with bringing the professional photographer or having them do a class, and myself obviously taking pictures, we can also help you with your camera settings if you're having issues. So without dwelling on Aurora too much, we're going to get to Fairbanks here and talk about that, where we really talk about Aurora. But again, this was a picture that I took last year that, it just shows everybody in the moment. And what I want to capture and kind of convey with this picture, this was about March 16th, March 17th, and our whole group was basically stranded at the Talkeetna, Alaska Lodge because that's when COVID hit.
Yeah.
This group had an experience that nobody else had, and it's all about your mindset. And you can see these people making snowmen, having a snowball fight, making snow angels. But literally, we had a group of 18 people, this giant lodge all to ourselves. And they didn't get to do everything that they were supposed to because things closed down early. But it was one of the most fun trips I've ever been on because the group was so willing to just accept the changes that we were making. We were always trying to make the best choices for them, but obviously keep them safe. So travel is all about what you make it. Now, one of my favorite spots right here, Broad Pass, we're going to make a stop. Hopefully it's clear. Doesn't matter what time of year. This is right south of Denali or south of Cantwell.
About 60 miles south of Denali.
Is it that far?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why when I get to Broad Pass, I think I'm almost to Denali.
One more hour. Little
yeah,
more, but yeah.
I'm thinking it is like 15 minutes.
Yep.
But yeah, it's we're always going to, again, when we tour, take what the day is giving us. Getting into Fairbanks. Now, this was, again, last year, if you can see up here on the top left, 9 below zero is our temperature. Again, that's a beautiful day. And I know you guys are going to think that I'm crazy. 9 below with what you see back here, clear skies and the sun being out in Fairbanks, that is a darn nice day.
Yeah.
It really is. That you will be taking off layers, I guarantee it, and say, gosh, I'm so hot. Even you folks from the south. So if any of you people are on from Florida, you'll probably want to use that jacket we give you when it gets down to 45, 50 degrees there, because obviously you're pretty soft, but we're going to toughen you up quickly, guarantee it. But this was again at one of the stops we made downtown Fairbanks. We do visit the Auto Museum, which is fantastic, Fountainhead Auto Museum. That's also done during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the high points, this is both for the winter and for the summer. We are going to go to Trailbreaker Kennels. Now, what's unique about the winter is we
ride the dog sled.
We actually get to ride a dog sled.
Yep.
And some of you, again, I know the winter isn't for everybody. Some of you may care zero about Aurora. You might care zero about going on a dog sled. But for any of you who have wanted to do things like that, that is exactly why we travel in Alaska during the winter. For those of you that haven't been to the travel shows before, Trailbreaker Kennels is run by a gentleman by the name of Dave Munson. He was a musher himself, but also was married to the late Susan Butcher, who was a 4-time champion of the Iditarod, 86, 87, 88, and 90. She should have won it in 89 as well, but a storm came up, and she couldn't finish. And Dave himself is no slouch. He actually won the Yukon Quest in 88.
Yep.
And Yukon Quest is actually perceived in the mushing world as even a tougher race than the Iditarod because the checkpoints are so spread out.
Yeah.
And it crosses 4 mountain ranges.
A lot less notoriety, much tougher race. But yeah, they love Alaska through and through. I think Dave will tell you when you get up there, he was a crab fisherman for one summer. Didn't want to die, so he moved interior, got up north of Fairbanks to Eureka, and that's how he met Susan.
Yeah.
Fantastic people. It's fantastic when we go out there with the small group settings. We get that hands-on experience. We get that little 1.5 mile run with the dogs. And as you pull away on your little tour there, or when you get that activity, just hearing the paws of the dogs and the breathing and the sled running through the snow, it really, really just captures that authentic Alaskan experience. And you really get an appreciation for not only how hard those dogs are working, but you kind of think about how tough it was, 110 years ago when people were up here running around on their dog sleds and using them, to get from A to B. So it's a great experience. And when you get done mushing, a little bowl of warm chili waiting for you.
That's right. And people do still use dog sleds.
They still use them to this day. Yeah. So and what's really neat about that tour up there is they use two different sleds. So they've got a racing sled, which is what you'd use in Iditarod, Yukon Quest, Copper Basin, some of those smaller races. And then the sled pictured here is a haul sled. So Dave and Susan actually use that sled there to go out and get their rations of caribou to feed the dogs. But there's quite a bit of history in there. You get to see the different types of sleds. The mushing community is still very strong in Alaska. It's still a big part of our local history and people.
Yep, absolutely. And it's, like I said, it's whether it's winter, summer, this is one of the highlights of going to Alaska. And I'm there to, again, try to take pictures of everybody so that, you can take your videos as you're riding on the sled, but I get a picture of you and I can share it with you. So this was one that I took actually last year. We did something pretty special. They changed their route. So this was running on the river.
Yeah.
They came back and finished on the river here rather than doing the trip around the lake. Yep. So again, just another picture for any of you folks who are from the villages. As you can see here, we have the daily sun. We know that's a thing. Anytime you travel, you've got to get your picture of you in the daily sun. So that was a couple of years ago, 4 years ago. And then, of course, sugar right there. Now, people think I'm crazy for going to Alaska during the winter. We have actually had a couple separate couples who have went on this tour back-to-back years.
Yeah, it grabs you. It's a special experience. It's very nice to go up there there's not crowds of people, especially once you get out of Anchorage, and there's certainly not crowds now, but that experience it's pretty wonderful. It opens up some emotions some people didn't even know they had.
Right. Absolutely.
Appreciation for not only the state, but just you get out there and you get some snow on your shoes and the clean air, and all of a sudden life gets a little more simple. Simple as it.
And talking about shoes, you do want to have something that grips fairly well, but believe it or not, me as a bus driver and helping run tours, I prefer the colder the better, because that snow actually gets sticky and it's much easier to walk in when it's colder, much easier for the motor coaches to get around. Anchorage can be sloppy and slick because of it is being warmer. Fairbanks is usually cold enough where it's not an issue. Now, we have had years where we come out of a cold freeze and then all of a sudden it's 20 degrees. That's when things can get a little dicey because the roads do get slick. And you're going to find out that they handle snow a little different in Alaska than they do in the Midwest, for any of you folks who have been in the Midwest.
Make that part of your experience.
That's right. We'll explain that in detail and have those debates. That's the nice thing about having Matt and I, is we see this from two total different sides. Even though I've been going to Alaska almost my whole life, I live in Minnesota, and life is just different. So we have different views on things. We also have a lot in common, other than I catch big fish and he catches little fish.
Potato.
Yeah. So one of the great things that we do as far as getting you out to remote places is get you in an airplane. Now, if any of you have got to meet me before, saw any of my travel shows, you know that I am not the airplane guy. This is the picture that I take right here as the group is leaving. I don't like small aircrafts. I don't like helicopters. But Matt, of course, he will get in a small airplane. I don't know how often you do it.
Not enough.
All the time.
Not enough.
All the time.
Yeah, probably 50 times a year.
Yeah. So what we do is we are going to fly you up above the Arctic Circle. On the Iditarod tour, we're going to stop at one of the checkpoints. So you're going to get to see what the mushers look like through the checkpoint. So trust me, they look a little different after they've been running that trail for at that point, what, 6, 7 days?
Yeah.
Sometimes, rather than what they look like when you saw them at the Mushers Banquet and the official start and the ceremonial start. But you're going to have an opportunity to get out and visit. Again, we don't know. We went to Shagluck,
Yeah.
which was a last minute decision because
Weather.
that was a year where the race was running quicker.
Yeah.
We have an idea of where the mushers will be, but it changes.
Yeah. And I'm going to stop you right there. When we visit those Iditarod checkpoints, we want to take our guests to the checkpoint that's going to have the most activity. We're not chasing the front runners. We're not chasing those top 5 teams. We want you to have an interaction with the most dog teams as possible. So rather than seeing 3 or 4 teams in a day, we're hoping to get you to see 10, 12, 15, 20 teams.
Within reason.
Within reason. Yeah, we're not out there all day. But
we're not going to try to find you. I shouldn't say, we would be more happy to see you have 4 or 5 mushing teams in the top third than the middle of the pack where we see 20.
Yeah.
So we will not make a gamble to put you in a spot where maybe you'll see the lead musher or maybe you won't see anything. We're going to take you to a place where you're going to see something. Yeah. But this is again from up above, and some of the other pictures that you'll see from up above are just amazing. And that's what they've always said about Alaska. People say, if you really want to see it and get the idea of how big it is, get in the sky. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate when people say that, but it's not my deal. No. So I have made my share of flights though, and I love those Dash 8s. I do. That is my favorite plane.
Dash 8.
Dash 8 is big enough. Dash 8 can hold just under 30 people. I can handle that. But Bettles, you are going to get to cross the Arctic Circle. And this is, again, one of our stops. And again, smaller aircrafts. We are going to be breaking up the group into multiple aircrafts. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we kind of take off and land together. But it's a lot of fun. And we're going to get to go places that a percentage of a percent get to go when they visit Alaska, because this is not what the big tour companies do at all. Yeah. Now, talking again more about Aurora, because we are in Fairbanks, we have evening activities set up for you because, again, some people are going to Alaska for one reason, and that's to see the Aurora. They don't care about anything else on the tour, so we're going to try to put the odds in your favor so that we can see it. So for any of you that are going to go to Alaska during the winter, we'll give suggestions, again, on clothing, but also you can call us on camera equipment. And I wish I was going to bring my camera tonight. I forgot. But you don't have to spend a ton of money. If you do already have a decent camera, you can get a wide angle lens. There's one, I can't remember which. I think I threw the box away. I had it up on my cabinet here for the longest time. But you can email us. I could tell you what it is, but I spent about $400 on this lens, and I recommended it to other people, and they've been very, very happy with it. The reason that I picked this particular lens was because the woman who runs a camera store in Fairbanks said this is the one that they actually rent out a lot. And you can rent camera equipment, both Anchorage. I'm not sure about Fairbanks now. I think that place closed down. I don't remember the name, but Stewart's Photo. The other thing too is if you actually want to buy a camera, you can go and buy it in Alaska, because guess what?
No sales tax.
That's right.
Not in Anchorage.
No sales tax. And let's just say, for example, you are going to spend $1,000 on a camera. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, obviously it'd be good to call ahead and make sure that they have what you're looking for. But there's a lot of great options out there. Just about any camera nowadays, like I said, can capture this. It's just a matter of what you're going to do with it. But you definitely do not have to spend tons of money on a camera. You can spend $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 on a camera. I invested in what I would call an expensive camera a couple of years ago, because the camera that I had shot great pictures during the day, but would not shoot good ones at night. And I spent about, I think, $800 or $900 on that camera.
Yeah.
They gave me I shouldn't say they gave me, they rented me a wide angle lens that I should try, which was $1,700. And I put it side by side by the $400 one, could not tell the difference. So again, we're going to try to give you the best knowledge that we can, so you're not spending tons of money. But again, you're going to have, these are pictures that I took at Aurora Point. This is one of those evening activities. Aurora Point is run by the Eberhard family, and this is just outside of Fairbanks, so we don't have to go real far, but you can see this aurora kind of changing. This is kind of a series of photos. I'll go back to the start here. But that aurora changing, and this is all in the same spot. And a lot of times you'll have this band here, and that's what you're going to see first. Then it will start to kind of dance up and down. But the thing about being in Fairbanks is it's one of the few places where you can actually see aurora straight above you. You might be seeing aurora in all directions. Unfortunately, there's not a way to capture all of that. But again, these are not doctored photos at all. This is our group here at Aurora Point, them all standing outside, and I had my tripod set up here. You definitely have to have a tripod. I'll tell you that. And actually, I missed one thing I was going to talk about. I'll go back here. This picture, for example, why am I showing this? In order to capture this phenomenon, again, the aurora, you have to focus, basically go to infinity and go back a little bit. You can see these stars are crisp. That's how you know you're set in the right way. And what you see down on the bottom here, that was where a car drove by, because a lot of times we're going to be running, I would say most times I run a 10-second exposure. If the aurora is very faint, I will run sometimes up to 30, but you have to bracket what they call it and kind of change your settings at all times. Do 10 seconds, then do 8 seconds, or change your ISO. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, we will get you up to speed real quick on it. It's not as complicated as it sounds. But I will tell you that the more active it is, the shorter you want your exposure time, and you might have to bump up your ISO a little bit. Every camera's a little bit different.
Yep.
Anything you want to add on Aurora?
Just to put an umbrella over it, we incorporate a sharing philosophy with our group. So we use photo circle. So if Joe gets a fantastic picture and I get a fantastic picture and Nancy Dykstra gets a fantastic picture, we sit down at the end of the night and we photo share or photo circle those. So you may take 50 pictures and get home and have 1,100. So we share that. We ask everybody to join the group. I don't think anybody on our group selling their pictures. So we just share them. So it's fantastic to get home, and they might be Joe might be 30 yards away from where I'm standing, and it's a different angle and different exposure. So we share our pictures together with the entire group. There's no charge for that. It's not Disneyland. So we don't get you with a $40 at the end. We share our pictures. We go through there every night. And if you don't get in on the photo circle the first night or the second night, get in on the third or fourth, and we'll give them all to you anyways.
Right.
So that catalog or that library of pictures just grows and grows and grows. So then you go home, and between April and May, before our June tour start, you get to go through and look at all those pictures.
Yep, and you can add them at any time. People add them sometimes when they get home because they have to offload them off of your cameras. A lot of the new cameras, they have the Wi-Fi, where I will take my best ones and upload them right away so people can see that. But yes, you get with the photo circle. It's not something that we do on every tour, but every tour that I run, I have used it, because you're actually doing me a favor. Some of the pictures that I use in my travel shows are pictures that my guests have got, and I've got them off the photo circle. And again, that's going to always be out there. The downside to photo circle is it only operates off of smartphones, so there isn't a PC side of it. You can only use your smartphone to view them, but you can save them, and they save at a pretty good resolution. The other thing about pictures, I've had some guests say, I want a really good picture. Doesn't have to be the one I saw when I was in Alaska, but I want a really good aurora picture. The gentleman who does classes for our groups, his name is Frank Stiegels.
Yeah.
Now write this down. Get a pen ready. I'm going to give you his Facebook information or his website. He has all kinds of stuff. It's called Aurora Bear. Okay, and the reason that I'm giving you that, Aurora Bear, is Frank actually will, and again, this has been the past. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I had a guest last year that said, I want a really good picture. Frank said, or I asked Frank, how much do you charge for your photos? And Frank makes money, giving classes and private classes. Frank said, I don't charge for my photos. If there's one that they see they like, I will send it to them and they can have it blown up and have a picture made. So, and this is a guy who is unbelievably talented, and he's been shooting Aurora. Has it been 10 years? Not even 10. Yeah. No, I don't even think it's 10 years. It's relatively short. His learning curve, basically, yeah, he talks about this, and we'll talk about it when you travel with us to Alaska, but he is going to fast track your knowledge. But if you want to see amazing Aurora photos, find Aurora Bear, go to his website, go to his Facebook, follow him, go to Instagram, and you are going to see a ton of great Aurora. He also has a lot of pictures of his dogs, but I love his dogs, and of course his wife Miriam is super sweet as well. So you guys will all get to meet them. Now, speeding things up here a little bit, one of the unique things about when we stay in Fairbanks is we're going to spend 2 nights at the Borealis base camp, and these, what people call them pods, people call them igloos. I don't know what the correct term is, but you're going to stay in there for an evening, and believe it or not, they're pretty big. They don't look that big, but they are big enough for a king-size bed, end tables, and they all have a bathroom in them, which is very unique because this is off-grid. We're 17 miles outside of Fairbanks. And trust me, that doesn't sound like a long distance, but when you go north of Fairbanks, even 5 miles, you are off-grid.
You are.
Yeah. So this is a truly unique place, and you actually have as you can see here, a see-through ceiling. So people have asked, can I see the Aurora while I'm laying in bed? Well, there's a possibility. But what I've said is the best thing about this is it has to be clear to see the Aurora, okay? That's the biggest thing. Even when the forecast is poor, being in Fairbanks this time of year, you're probably going to see it. But it has to be clear. So you could be laying in bed, it could be cloudy. When you wake up in the middle of the night, you see stars, it's clear enough where you could see the Aurora. So that's what's really cool about it. And then obviously they have a small deck you can go out on. If you're trying to capture pictures, you really want to be outside because those glass roofs are going to kind of mess with your focus.
The staff at Borealis Base Camp, they're awake 24 hours a day. Somebody is. So if it's 2:30 in the morning, 3:45 in the morning, and the Aurora start doing their dance, they've got a great system. It's a little chime in your room. It's not undisturbing. It's not going to shake you out of bed, but it's going to let you know, hey, those lights are out. You peek out from under the covers, look up at the lights. If it grabs you, throw your slippers on, throw your jacket on, get out on that deck. That clear glass that you can see in the domes, we illuminated those for our pictures. Of course, you're not going to have the lights on to look at the northern lights, but that is the cockpit glass, the same glass they use in helicopters. So it's fantastic, but it's not uncommon to just look up at 3 in the morning and see the lights flashing and grab an Oreo and go out on the deck and take some pictures. And
that in that area, like I said, you don't want to be looking just in one direction.
No.
It could be everywhere. Not to contradict you, Matt, but they do actually stop staffing hours. It's not 24 hours now.
No, it's not.
However, you have me.
Joe will be up.
And if it's up, if it's out, I'm going to make sure that everybody's notified. For instance, this last winter, this picture that I'm showing you right here, the Aurora came out literally 15 minutes after the office rep closed, and I was in the very last dome, which is about 400 yards. Now, for an overweight bus driver to sprint 400 yards in the snow, wearing next to nothing except for my boots, was not an easy task. But I ran to the desk, not pretty. Thank goodness it was dark. I tried to hit every button I could to wake people up, but I couldn't find out which one it was. So I went to every pod, woke up every single person, and they got to see it. And that's what we will do, because again, if you're going to go there once and you want to see the Aurora, I want to make sure you have that chance. So this is a picture looking from kind of the office back towards the domes. And then these were pictures that I did take after I woke everybody up. So when Matt, you said, don't turn the lights on for viewing the Aurora, you know, people learn. It does take some time, but sometimes people need to find their, you know,
their jackets and gloves. And
whatever it is. So this was at like 2:30 in the morning. Started out kind of faint, but got pretty strong. Nice. So this was actually a pre-Aurora, but another one that I got here, and as you can see, it changes very, very rapidly. But there isn't any other light pollution out there, so we can see it. This is a picture that I took straight above me. What I love about this picture is that it shows that the Aurora isn't just off in the horizon. It can be straight above you. What I hate about this picture is it does not show anything else around it. I'm one of those guys that when I take pictures, I don't care about zooming in on a bear, because anybody can do that with a large lens, okay? What I want is I want to see how close I am to the bear. I want my pictures to convey that. So you can see some of kind of that pink in there. And again, depending on the activity, it could be even brighter red. So we have all different colors, but green is the most common. It's also the easiest for the human eye to see.
Yep.
Now, some of the other activities that we have while we're out there, because we're not just out there for the evenings, we have the snow shoeing, snow machining, closed circuit to all you folks, not Matt here. We build snowmobiles in Minnesota, so we should know what they're called. So I'm not saying that we're right, but they're snowmobiles, okay? As you can see right there. So they're actually pretty high end. Again, so if you folks have never done that, you're going to want to take it easy. But if you folks have done it, we have some other trips that you can do before or after that again will be more, I should say, a longer tours than what you'll get out here.
You still want to take it easy.
You still want to take it easy. Yes, absolutely. The World Ice Carving Championships is usually going on about that same time. We'll go out there in the evening. That's when you really want to see these pieces of art, because all of the detail stands out. And yes, all outdoors, but you know, we about an hour to walk around all the exhibits. And if you know you don't want to stand outside that long, you can go back to the bus and warm up. Otherwise, there's other places to get warm as well. But it's pretty amazing. Now, adding on some different things, people ask frequently, Chena Hot Springs, why don't you go to Chena Hot Springs? Well, Chena Hot Springs is probably the busiest place in Fairbanks during the winter months, and that's just not what we do. We don't want our folks to be swallowed up with a couple hundred other guests. So if you want to, you can certainly extend your tour. There are car rental places, and you can go out to Chena Hot Springs. That's totally up to you. It's about 60 miles outside of Fairbanks.
Chena offers a shuttle, so if you don't want to drive on those icy roads, right, they'll pick you up at the hotel and drive you back. So you don't even have to worry about driving out there. That's
a great point, and that's actually the way to do it. That road is terrible. No, it's terrible. A lot of times it's not one lane ish.
Yeah.
So
part of the experience.
Yes.
But let those. We can help you arrange that. If you want to stay a couple days late, come in a couple days early. Absolutely, get out there to Chena, sit in that pool and look at the northern lights if you want to spend the night out there.
Yeah, and again, folks, we have the chat feature here. If you have questions you want to ask, please go ahead and type in your questions there, and then we can address those while we're live here. The other thing I mentioned was snowmobiling to one of the glaciers. Absolutely amazing to do this.
This is south of Girdwood. This is about 50 miles south of Anchorage. So the tour originates in Girdwood. They shuttle you down, get you on these sleds, usually double up. So you're running a track that's 151 centimeters and about 6-7 miles back to Spencer Glacier there, and also Skookum Glacier.
More than that.
Well, 7 to Skookum, probably 10 to Spencer.
I think we were going
About 10.
We were going over 12.
Yeah, lots of moose back there in that valley. Then the cool thing on this tour is as we head back to Spencer Glacier, which is a further glacier, lots of moose in there. But guess what? There's a lot of wolves in that valley. So keep your eyes peeled. They won't bother you, but it's just kind of cool to be tootling along on your sled about 20 miles an hour and seeing some wolves keeping pace with you, keeping your eyes on you.
And again, you're seeing that this equipment is late model.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked when I got on board these snowmobiles and I said, you're putting my guests on these that have never been on a snowmobile before.
Right.
Talk about a recipe for disaster, especially for you folks that are used to having a golf cart that has a brake pedal.
Yeah. No brake.
No.
Friction.
Yeah.
Friction.
So, or you get your brake mixed up with your throttle. So again, we don't do this as a group, but they do take smaller groups, and it's a phenomenal trip. So they warn people about the capabilities of these machines, but there's always folks that are caught off guard.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Another thing is I don't have a slide in here, but if usually about the middle of March, they are starting gray whale tours out of Seward. So if you wanted to go and do a gray whale watching trip, you could certainly do that. Now, since obviously you live there, and I'm basically just doing what's on the tours that's already set. Do you have any other suggestions that you could give as far as, pre or post tour options, things that we miss?
There's flight seeing tours out of Anchorage. There's a couple companies we work with that also do helicopter tours. So if you want to get a little more in depth with your experience, we work with a company down in Girdwood that does the helicopter tours up and lands on these remote glaciers. They go to a couple ridges. So you're looking at glaciers and then you're viewing down into Prince William Sound. So to be sitting at 3,300 feet and looking down into Blackstone Bay or over into Surprise Glacier, that's a great thing. Yeah, the whale watching is fantastic. The helicopter tours, ski plane tours. There are other kennels or dog mushing opportunities. So if you want to get a little half an hour, hour and a half long dog mushing hands-on tour, we can help arrange that as well.